بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We're going to start by giving you a little introduction for me, okay? And this is the reason how I came to Islam, is the reason why I became a da'iyah, is the reason why I just recently, like 3 years ago, I retired early from my job teaching at universities. And I said I'm going to devote the rest of my life to teaching people about Islam. Let us begin. There was a group of researchers, not Muslims, and they wanted to travel around the world. And when they were traveling around the world to do research, they were looking for the answer to why do people leave one religion to go to another religion. So, subhanallah, what happened is they went around and they found out that when they asked different people, they had stories and they had reasons and they had dreams, they had everything. But when they asked a Muslim, always they came up with the exact same answer, no matter where in the world you were talking to a Muslim. And they would say, I was guided by Allah. So I'm going to talk to you about my story. I was guided by Allah, and it was a guidance through plans. I planned, the people that were with me planned, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had his plan. And as Allah is the best of planners. So I was a teenager. My father was a commander in the American Army. As a commander in the American Army, he had a lot of status, position, wealth, everything he needed. And then even afterwards, because you know, while you're in the Army, you don't make as much, right? He retired and became a consultant to the Army. So I was a spoiled brat, spoiled rotten. Anything I wanted, I got it. So here I was about to graduate from high school, and the commander above my father came to me. And he said, we know that you are very, very intelligent. You have good grades. You are very active in debate club. Debate is like, you know, when you're talking to someone and you have a point and you argue back and forth. I could be very persuasive. And you're very strong Christian, and you are very interested in following and pursuing women's rights. We need you. And I'm like, what for? He said, we will pay for you to go to the university we choose. You will study international relations. You will graduate and study international law. We'll pay for everything. Then we're going to make you the American ambassador to Egypt. And that will be your job for the world. Now, this group was not part of the government. People try to make it that they were not part of the government. This was an individual who was in the government and using his position, and there were individuals in education, there are individuals in different types of professions around the world, and their job, like mine at that time, was going to be, we're going to put you in a job. You know, what's that? Once you're in the job, we are going to use you to destroy Islam. Your job will be, now those of you who are older like me, you remember that back in the day, you didn't have fashionistas, you didn't have influencers, right? What was available in that day to the Muslim world were the Egyptian actresses, the Egyptian high class, the movies. Everybody was watching this, and they were looking at these women to see, what is the next fashionable thing to do? What is the next thing that shows that we are cultured and high class? So my job was going to be, I'm going to talk to these women. Now imagine, you've got somebody, she's an actress in Egypt, and she's very well known. And I say to her, I'm the American ambassador, please come join me at my home. They're going to want to come. I have the panache, the kashka, the place where they're going to want to be with me. And so my job was, I am going to talk to these women. I'm going to become friendly. Oh, how are you today? How's everything? Yes. Do you know I was reading the Quran? Because in the evening, after my classes, I was meeting with a group of Jewish scholars on Quran and Hadith, and how to play with it. Subhanallah. So I was supposed to, they were training me. Subhanallah, you are so beautiful. And I love your hair. Why do you cover your hair? And they'd be like, well, Allah in the Quran, this is Islam. You know, I was reading the Quran, and in the Quran it says that you're supposed to take the kimar, is that the right word? Kimar? You're supposed to take the kimar and you're supposed to put it over your breast. So if you're wearing a shawl, aren't you doing what the Quran said? So I kind of look like I'm interested in Islam. At the same time, I'm putting doubt inside their head. Okay? So this is what I was doing. And why? Why? Because this group knew that taking someone completely away from Islam to become kafir, to not believe in Allah, is very difficult. You can catch a couple, but most of them, even if they leave everything behind, they're still la ilaha illallah. So what they wanted was to water down the deen. At around this time, it was in the 1970s, and the Iranian government, the American embassy in Iran had been taken over for almost a year by some Iranian rebels. During that time, I'm sitting there with my friend who is the daughter of a very well-known general. So we were all sitting around, the kids of these people, and I said to her, I don't understand, why don't we just go there and just bomb them all, get rid of them, blow them away. And she said, you know, I was just talking to my father about this yesterday. And what he said was that the only way that the United States has to keep a people under control is to make them to be afraid of being annihilated. The problem is that when Muslims are practicing Islam, they're not afraid of death. So you can't control them. So subhanAllah, it stuck in my mind. If you fear death, you're not going to stand up to anything. Mm-hmm. If you're afraid that you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your car, you're going to lose your stuff, you're not going to stand up as strongly as if, Yallah, take me. Mm-hmm. A Muslim who fears Allah, who believes in Allah, who it's akhirah over dunya, they don't have this. It makes you strong. It makes you be able to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to accept this. Subhanallah. So this is what they were aiming for. And how are they going to do this? Through feminism. Make the woman free. Now, we know that Islam has rights for women, more so than any Western country anywhere. The problem is, especially in that time, most Muslim women had no education in Islam. They didn't know their religion. And the culture was oppressing them. And they didn't know the difference between this is culture and this is Islam. So they were, oh yes, women should go out to work. Yes, women should get educated. Islam allows this. But the culture didn't allow it. So I was supposed to make the women go out, get a job, have a boyfriend, be free, enjoy your life, and you can pray on Jummah, you can pray at your house, it's okay. You don't have to wear the hijab, you can pray. So taking them away from being good Muslims, practicing Muslims. And when I asked why, they said, because we're going after the women, because you destroy a man, you've destroyed a man. You destroy a woman, you destroy every generation that comes after her. So subhanallah. So here I am, I'm like, I'm going to save them. Those poor Arab women in the desert, their husband's on a camel in the sand with a tent, right? That's my image. I'm an American woman in the 80s. I have no idea what Islam is. All I know is what's in the movies, Lawrence of Arabia, right? So I think I'm going to do this. This is great. I'm going to save them. I go off to the university. I start studying. Now where's the problem? If any human being, and I honestly, truly, wallahi believe this, and you can see it now on the internet everywhere. If you open the Quran and you have even a little bit in your heart saying, I want truth, Allah will guide you to the truth. Zero doubt. I'm watching like Megan Rice and all these people online, right? The little Jewish girl, mashallah, who took her shahada just recently. Mashallah, I'm watching them and they're reading the Quran on the TikTok, on YouTube. And they're asking questions and explaining things, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, I was there. I know what you're talking about. You're coming, baby. You're coming. You're going to be a Muslim. I know it. If you read the Quran with even a little bit inside you. So when we're going to make dawah to people, we need to expose them to Allah, to the Quran, to the words of Allah. Because this alone is enough. If they have it in their heart that they want it. So subhanAllah, I'm reading it, and my heart is saying, this is beautiful. This is logical. This isn't 3 and 1 and 1 and 3. This isn't, I went to my priest because I was feeling a little bit like, what in the world, what is this religion? Let me make myself stronger. And I was like, explain the Trinity to me. This is an egg. See the egg? You have the shell, you have the white, and you have the yellow. When you take it apart, it's still part of an egg. When you put it back together, it's an egg. So it's 3 and it's 1. And my brain, because I'm too logical, is like, it's an egg. For God's sake, it's an egg. I want to understand how God can be Jesus, can be the ghost, can be separate. Jesus on his floor, on his face, prostrating to God, to ask God to remove this problem. When he created the problem, he doesn't have to do it. Not logical. So my heart changed. And I was like, okay, you know what? I like this religion, but let's go back to the beginning. I'm a spoiled brat. I have the dunya in my hand. Anything I want, I can have it. At that time, Bush the father? The Secretary of Education, Herbert Riley, his son Hubert was my fiance. Anything I wanted was mine. Anything I wanted, I could have it. I do not need to become a Muslim, right? No way should I become a Muslim because I'm going to lose my fiance, my father, my money, my everything, my position. So alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah. I said, I'm going to make a new plan. I planned and Allah planned. In my university, there was a professor. This professor was a PhD graduate from Harvard University, and he was in his 80s. Very well known for what? Teaching Christianity. I did not know that he was a Unitarian Christian. A Unitarian Christian is one who believes that Isa alayhi salam is what? Prophet, not God, not son of God. So I said, I'm taking a class with this man in the history of Christianity. This is supposed to make me a stronger Christian, right? You would think. First day of class, picks up a copy of the Bible, the King James Version of the Bible. And he says, see this? Throw it in the trash can. My heart went down to my toes. Imagine someone said to you this about the Quran. This is how I was feeling, because I'm here to do what? My intention, my niyyah, my plan, to make myself a stronger Christian. But instead, this man took us back to the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, the Latin, the original languages, the original documents. And he showed us, if you take a look at this original document, this one is 200 years later. Notice, this was added, this was deleted, this was changed. This word was translated to this word. It's an entirely different word. Now Jesus went from God, from prophet to son of God, to God. All the changes in the Bible. So now I've left the class, and I can't be a Christian because I know it's a lie, right? Am I ready to be a Muslim yet? No. Still the dunya is in my heart. A human being cannot have 2 gods in one heart. And I had 2 gods in one heart. I wanted to worship God. I wanted to worship my Creator. But I also wanted my money and my cars and my people and my society and the fun and the parties and the nightclubs. I wanted it all. So subhanAllah, it's like, okay, no plan. Let's see every religion in the world. I spent hours and hours in the library. Hinduism, Buddhism. I'm in the airport traveling back to Germany to see my dad because he was in Germany at the time. I'm traveling back to Germany. There's a guy in an orange sari, and he's like, Hare Krishna. I'm like, give me your books. I want to read everything. And I'm reading and reading and reading. Christianity had something that made sense. Judaism had something that made sense, but something was broken, and I could see it. Only Islam was making 100% sense. And it was so logical. So, 3 years 3 years, because I am a very stubborn person as well, for 3 years, I am studying this. Every Muslim that I see, I'm like, hi, how are you? Tell me about your religion. Why do your women do this? Why do men do that? Why do you have to pray? Asking any question that I could. The group thinks I'm asking these questions and getting to know these people. Why? So that I can practice for when I go to Egypt, right? My intention, still the niyyah, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, deeds are by intentions, right? And it's the first hadith in Sahih Bukhari. And it's not in the book of intentions or something like that. It's in the book of the revelation to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And why is that the first one? Because even the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he went to the mountain, to the cave, he had an intention to look for, understand, and worship. So subhanAllah, my intention talking to these people is what? My intention is I want to get this Islam thing out of my heart. I want to stop loving the Quran. I wanted anything to show me, no, this is a lie. SubhanAllah. 3 years talking to people. One of the people that I used to question was a Kuwaiti guy, not my ex-husband, was a Kuwaiti guy who was an older student. He was in his 30s, we're 20, he was old to us. I wish I was 20 now. So subhanAllah, this guy, every time he saw me, he was a normal, average, everyday Muslim, but he could answer the questions that I asked him so clearly, and he was practicing. So he would see me and he'd be like, oh, hi, how are you doing? Here's a book. How are you doing? Here's a cassette. Come, sit with me, have coffee, ask me questions. He noticed that I was asking a lot of questions. 3 years, to the point, when you're doing something wrong? When you know you're doing something wrong, and you see someone who reminds you that you're doing the wrong thing, how do you feel about them? You're like, I don't want to talk to that person, right? That's how I felt about this guy. I would see him there, I'd go running the other way. One day, he actually called me up in my apartment. How he found my number, Allahu Alam. Because I never gave it to him. I may have given it to guys, but not to him. He had my phone number, he calls me, it's nighttime. I understand now, it was after Salat al-Isha. It was May in Iowa. It had snowed the day before. So he's telling me, oh, there's a group of people traveling around the United States. They're from different countries. They're all Muslims. It was Jamaat al-Tabligh. You know that, right? Okay, so they were traveling around the United States, and he had told them about me, and they want to meet me. Now let's backtrack just a few days before that. I woke up in the middle of the night, shaking. I had had a dream, and in this dream, subhanAllah, something evil was behind me. I couldn't see it, but I could feel, like the worst evil you could imagine feeling, that's what I felt. And I'm running, trying to get away from it. And I woke up, shaking, and at that point I was like, God, Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus, whoever you are, whatever you are, I need the truth. So now what happened? These are by intention, right? My intention changed. Now I wanted the truth, not to look at Islam to say it's wrong. I wanted to know what exactly is the truth. So subhanAllah, fast forward, this man calls me and I tell him, I'm sorry, I can't go, my car's broken. I had a brand new cherry red Camaro. I love fast cars, by the way. Absolutely adore fast cars. So it was brand new, it was not broken, but it was an excuse to not go. Because shaitan, when we want to do something good, when we have good intentions, shaitan is going to give you every reason not to do it. So subhanAllah, I knew this man is a religious guy. So he doesn't hang with women. I thought, that's it, that's the end of it, right? I'm going to come get you. Okay, stuck. I'm not an impolite person. So I tell him where I live. He comes to my home. I'm renting a floor in an old Victorian house. So I have the whole floor for myself. He comes upstairs and he sees me. I am wearing a black sweater. It was my favorite outfit. It was a black cashmere sweater with a silk white shirt underneath, a black and white skirt, with boots. I look pretty good. And if you put a headpiece on, I'm a modern Muslim. Right? So subhanAllah, he looks at me and he's like, we're going to a mosque and these people are very religious. Can you put something on your hair? And I had this scarf that I used to wear hanging. It was like a triangle scarf. So I put that on my hair. It was purple with gold lines. And I put it like this, Masriya style, with a little bow on the side. And I come out and I'm like, okay. He's like, do you have something loose and long? I had a long, you would call it now like a dara, but we called it like a lounging dress. Because it's something you wear around the house to sleep in, to hang out with. But it was nice. So I put it on, and he's like, perfect. I get my coat, put it on, we go down to the car. American woman, what am I going to do? I'm going to open the front door, and I'm going to sit down next to you, boy. Excuse me, but please, can you sit in the back?
Shock after shock.
Shock after shock. But I'm polite, okay? I was raised right by daddy. So I sit in the back. Now, this is a Kuwaiti man. He would be like a Qatari man. The entire time I'm in the back seat, I'm making jokes of him as my chauffeur. And he didn't say a word. Now I know how bad that was. But subhanAllah, I'm making jokes all the way to this place. I think we're going to a masjid. Where are we going? To a musalla. It wasn't a masjid. The Khaliji students did not have a masjid in the town. So what they did is they rented an apartment to make it a musalla. So we drive up to this place in the middle of the night. It's a flat apartment, and you park right in front. Now I'm starting to worry. It's the middle of the night. I don't really know this man. And we're going into an apartment. And he convinces me, no, we rented this place. It's our prayer area. Don't worry, it's safe. I get as far as the door. Opens the door. Wall to wall men. Not a woman in the whole place. Now, once again, I'm at IKEA. Men, women, alcohol, dancing, music. No problem. Adi. One woman, 40 men. We got a problem. So the old man, subhanAllah, his name was Namatullah, may Allah give him firdaus for his patience with me. Ameen. He sees the problem that I don't want to come in. He's like, okay, let's fix this. So he opens the door, there was one door, and he put a chair here and a chair right in the middle of the door. So he was blocking the door so it wouldn't close. And I was sitting that all I have to do is jump up and run out if there's any problem. And he pushed all the men against the far wall. Like, okay. I start talking with this man. We're talking and I'm telling him, but in the Bible, and I don't believe in the Bible anymore, but I'm
just trying.
Not just trying, it's like I'm hoping that he's going to say something to make me believe in the Bible again, to let me be a Christian again. But subhanAllah, exactly as my professor. No, it was changed here, this was added, this was deleted. Isa alayhi salam went from prophet to God. And we have a saying, you can't cover the sun with your hand. You can do like this and you don't see it, but it's still there. That's how I felt. I knew the truth. I knew Islam was the truth and that I had no choice but to follow this, whatever the consequences are. Now, back up again, spoiled brat, right? I did not have the strength to say no to things. The strength to say, I don't want money, I don't want cars, I don't want life, I don't want my position, I don't want to be an ambassador. And I knew this decision is going to take all of the dunya away from me. And not even as much. When I made the decision, I didn't know how much of the dunya I was going to lose. But I knew it was the truth. And so I said, that's it. I want to be a Muslim. And subhanAllah, Namatullah, he looks at me and he's like, okay, repeat after me. Raise your finger. And say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I'm saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And I'm sorry, this part, every time, because I remember. I felt here. I did like this because I felt like something really heavy was here. It's ripped off of my chest. Years later, I read the verse in the Quran that the non-believers are like those going up a mountain, and their chests are constricted. And that's exactly what I felt. Like, I'm breathing. And I felt sakeen, peace. Like, that was it. I knew I had done the right thing. I knew I had done the right thing. It became zero doubt. Automatic. I knew. This is it. I can't turn back now. This is my deen. This is my religion. I'm going to be a Muslim. So my first hijab was that little purple thing with the long dress. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I went home, picked up the phone, called my father, who was still in Germany at that time. I said, Dad, I became a Muslim. It's after Fajr, keep in mind. This is after Fajr. And he's like, are you crazy? Did you lose your mind? Are you brainwashed? I'm like, no, I know this is the truth. And my father said, I'm sending a ticket. And the older ones of us, we remember a time where a ticket could be delivered to your house. I remember a time when you can take that ticket to the airport and get cash back for it. SubhanAllah. He said, a ticket is coming. If you're not on the plane, I no longer have a daughter, you're dead to me. Not the next morning, because it was the same day. I went to the university and I'm wearing my little purple hijab. My advisor, who was part of the group, sees me. It's like, in my office now. I go to his office. I have 1 semester left to finish my degree. 1 semester. And it's independent study with my advisor, who's a member of the group. He said, you know you're never going to graduate. You lose everything from today. I left there in tears. I'm walking out of the university. I'm crying. And the professor who taught me Christianity sees me. And he says, Salam alaikum. And I look at him and he's like, what's wrong? I said, you're a Muslim? He said, come in my office. I go into his office. Old man surrounded by books of Christianity. I mean, this man, his office was just like bookcase, you know? And I'm like, you're a Muslim. He's like, if I ever became a Muslim and anybody knew that I was a Muslim, then I would lose everything. I said, so you're not a Muslim? He's like, I believe in Allah. I believe the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I said, oh, I get it. SubhanAllah. So I've got my father's disowning me. My school is throwing me out. I go home and I'm sitting here and think, okay, now what? A normal person could probably have lived easily off of what I already had. SubhanAllah, I ended up selling my car. I ended up selling the ticket. By the end of the first year, because Daddy disowned me, he called me the next day and I was like, I can't come, Dad. And it wasn't me. Wallahi, not me. It was Allah giving me strength. I said, Dad, if I had been a Jew when Isa alayhi salam came, I would have to accept Isa alayhi salam. How can I deny Muhammad? I lost Daddy. I lost everybody in my family because of my dad's position, even his brothers, my cousins, my mother, my father, everybody I would call, no, we don't have anybody like that, and hang up. So for 1 full year, this is a test. Allah was removing the dunya from my heart and from my life. Alhamdulillah, by the end of the year, Allah created a situation and my father called me back. Alhamdulillah. But during that year, subhanAllah, the trials that I had, the steps that I took to become a Muslim, the reading, the studying, the having to accept the fact that everybody in my society was wrong and an Arab on a camel in the desert was right. It's not easy. Those of us who have become Muslim, right? It's hard. Taking that step and saying, no, everybody's wrong, this is the truth. But alhamdulillah, Allah gave me the strength and the power. So now I have to let everybody know who is Allah, what is Allah. Muslims and non-Muslims. Because we have Muslims who don't know what Islam is. You can take them away from Islam. Why? Because they don't do what the Prophet ﷺ was told to do. The first word, Iqra. Allah said to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Iqra, Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of the Lord who created you. Allah is telling us because He's our creator, He knows us. He knows what we need. And we need to know, we need to understand. No human being on this earth can easily just go with the heart. You need the brain and the heart together. Read, learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always telling us in the Quran, do they not reflect? Are we not thinking? Are we not looking at the evidences? So I've kind of made it my job to show it to the people. Muslim, non-Muslim, it doesn't matter. And that is why I like to do dawah. That is why I feel like I have no choice but to teach people and to go against who I was before. Before, I wanted to take everybody away from Allah. Now I want everybody to know Allah. So inshallah, has it been 45 minutes?
No, it's not.
Not yet? Okay. So how much time do I have? I can start with the dawah presentation. Is that okay?
Okay.
Now, this presentation is a very shortened version of what I normally do. I normally, Dr. Bilal Phillips gave me his course, which is a 9-week course on how to make dawah. I have added to that course over the years. He gave it to me 20 years ago, and I have added a lot of things to the course in my way of teaching it. When I teach Islam, you know, as human beings, we need proofs, right? It's sometimes, you take one person and you say, Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, Hada, I'm there. I'm following it. Somebody else needs a little bit more. So what I do is I use all these degrees that I've gotten. I have a degree in science, I have a bachelor's in science, a bachelor's in arts. I have a master's degree in composition and rhetoric using computer programming. And my PhD is artificial intelligence. So I have a little bit of everything. And then I consider myself a professional student. When our community in South Carolina had no women doctors in town, a group of us studied and became midwives. I studied herbal medicine. I studied political science. I am reading day and night. And I'm looking for anything to help me to strengthen my deen. So when I give dawah, and which is what y'all should be doing as well, when you give dawah, you should also have knowledge of everything. Something from everything. So that you can give a total picture of it. And I'm going to give you one example during this, but this is, like I said, this is a condensed version. Normally it takes, I can do this course, I can do it 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours like this for several days. Or I can do 2-3 hours, 2-3 hours like this, twice a week or like that, so it depends. The extended course has 150 slides. Each slide I speak about 10-20 minutes on one slide. So I can make it long and I can make it short, depending on how much and who's listening. So, this is just a taste. Today's going to be a taste. Okay? All right. So, the virtues of dawah. Okay, now, there is another thing. أنا أعرف عربي, but my Arabic is horrible. My pronunciation is not good. I can read, I can understand. I translate to make sure that everything is translated correctly. But I don't like to, in lectures, do Arabic because I don't want to make a mistake. And I have in the past. I've said a word in a wrong way, and it has another meaning, and this terrifies me. So instead, I will give you the meaning. If somebody wants to read the Arabic, I can do it. But like I said, if I know something, mia bin mia, then I will say it. But if I'm not 100% and I'm reading it, I'm afraid of making a mistake. Okay? So, Allah says what means, and who is fairer in speech than he who calls to Allah and acts righteously and says, I am a Muslim. This is very short, but we can learn a lot from this one verse. Who is fairer in speech. So what that means what? That means who has the best way of talking, who has the best information to provide, who has the beauty of language. There's a lot of things within just this fairer in speech, right? So who is this person? Then he who calls to Allah. So the one who tells people what? La ilaha illallah. This is Islam. This is a religion you need to look at. This is something you need to think about. The one who calls people to the truth. SubhanAllah. Right now, whenever there's a disaster, who are the people that everybody looks to? The first responders, right? The paramedics, the fire people, the police, the army, the first responders, the ones that come and help, right? They're the ones everybody's looking up to. There's a disaster somewhere. You're going to be looking to the policeman. You're going to be looking to the paramedic. You're going to be looking to the doctor. You're going to be looking to these people. These people become higher because they are bringing you something you need. Who is better than the one who's bringing you the thing that will give you Jannah than the one who calls to Allah? All of this and just this. SubhanAllah. And because it's not enough just to call them, and acts righteously. What does that mean? Most of the scholars, they say that 90% of dawah is where? Your behavior. You can talk and talk and talk and talk. And as children of parents who are not perfect because they're human, when we see our parents make a mistake, what is more important to us? What they said or what they've done? What they've done. What they've done. Our behavior is dawah. It is so easy to destroy everything that's in the Quran with one action. SubhanAllah. And it's so easy to demonstrate La ilaha illallah, one action. And I'm going to give you some examples. In South Carolina, where my family is, I was at the masjid on a Jummah. On this Jummah, a Muslim man, had been traveling through South Carolina, had an accident in Columbia, our town. While he was in the hospital, because he was in bad shape, they asked him, who do we call for you? He's like, I don't have anybody here. He was traveling. He said, call the mosque. On Jummah, before the Salah, SubhanAllah, the barakah, the plan of Allah. This man did not know he's going to have an accident, right? And I'm going to tell you everything that happened, which is part of the plan of Allah. Allah knew what was going to happen, right? So this man, he has them called, they call the masjid. Our imam, he takes the information. After the khutbah, he talks a little bit about how important it is to visit the sick person, etc., right? Because you're going to ask for a favor. You're going to give them Quran and Hadith on that favor to make it a little stronger, sweeten it up, right? The barakah that you're going to get for visiting this strange person. So the brothers made a schedule. Literally, this group would come and they would leave, another group would come. They would leave, another group would come. They had been signed up. This man was in the hospital for a very long time. He was in very serious condition. He did not have a room by himself. He was sharing a room with a non-Muslim. This non-Muslim didn't have a lot of family visiting him. There would be days go by and nobody would visit him. But the Muslim, group in, group out, group in, group out. Nobody talked to this man about Allah, about Islam. They included him and let him talk with them while they're visiting with the guy and so forth, being kind and nice, good, being a good Muslim, right? SubhanAllah. At one night, the man, everybody had left, and the man's like, you have so much family. And he told them, no, I don't know any of these people. I don't know them. It's like, but they keep coming. It's like, yes. And he explained to him about the obligation of visiting the sick. He explained to him about brotherhood in Islam. He explained to him about family in Islam. And little by the time they both left the hospital, they both left as Muslims. SubhanAllah. Was it dawah? No. It wasn't this dawah. It was the action. The largest country in the world right now, that is a Muslim country is what?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Did a bunch of dayas go to Indonesia and like, hey, here's a book, here's a cassette, talk to me about Islam? No.
They had a
The businessmen came in doing business, just doing average business. But they were Muslim who feared Allah, and they were doing honest business, as opposed to the local population where everybody was cheating a little bit here, add a little water to the milk, do something, right? When the people started to see these businessmen are honest, what's making them honest? And it was the behavior. This behavior made the largest Muslim land on earth from simple businessmen trying to fear Allah. Give you a third example. In South Carolina, good friend of mine. At that time, she was new to Islam, but now she's very old to Islam. She said, do you know how I became a Muslim? This woman was, mashallah, gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And she said, I was accustomed that if I offered myself to anybody, they would never say no to me. Never. She said, I was visiting with my cousin, and her cousin was a Muslim. He had become a Muslim. She said, I'm visiting with my cousin, and he had a friend that was amazing, gorgeous guy. Tall, broad, muscular, everything you want in a man, right? Intelligent. Mashallah, this brother is also very successful. So she said, I offered myself to him. And he said, no, I can't do this, I'm a Muslim. She went home. She was from North Carolina. So she went back to North Carolina, and she said it kept sticking in her mind. What religion will make a man say no to a woman? I do whatever he wants. And she kept thinking about it till she starts reading about Islam and became a Muslim. SubhanAllah. She came back to South Carolina to visit her Muslim cousin because she was proud to go to him in her hijab, knock on his door. His mother knew, but she was supposed to surprise the cousin. So she knocks on the door, and her cousin, he made sujood shukr when he saw her. SubhanAllah. He took her to the masjid. She's coming out of the masjid from the women's side. The men are coming out because, after the salah. And the brother that she had offered herself to saw her, ran to her cousin and said, hey, what happened? And she said, she became Muslim. He grabbed the cousin and went to the imam and said, I want to marry that woman. They've been married for almost 30 years now. MashaAllah. He said no in haram, and Allah gave her to him in halal. And it was what? It wasn't his word. Did he say anything to her? It was his actions. So in Islam, you want to do dawah? Watch your behavior. Watch your behavior. Do you have something inside of you that is maybe a little arrogant? We need to recognize what we have in us. I have had situations in my life where I'm looking and I'm doing something, and then my brain is like, oh my God, that is so arrogant. Oh my God, that is so greedy. That is so selfish. We got to stop ourselves. We have to take inventory. So the first thing in Islam, okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint, because the first thing in Islam is your behavior, and that your behavior is going to reflect what? La ilaha illallah. And when your behavior reflects La ilaha illallah, anytime you're talking to any human being and you're going to teach them about Islam, no matter what they say, they're talking to you about polygamy, they're talking to you about terrorism, they're talking to you about whatever, you bring them back to La ilaha illallah. Always bring them back to La ilaha illallah. Because no matter what happens in this world, no matter what reputation Muslims have, La ilaha illallah will fix it all. In California, there's a university called USC. They have a place called the Halal Center, which is for Muslim and Jewish studies. They hired me to teach Islamic studies. Okay? So I'm at the university. They gave me 2 classes. One class was in Quran. So I would bring in, people would come in and they'd sign up for a course for the semester. And you could come in anyway. I never let anybody leave. If you come in, you're a Muslim, you want to sit and you want to read Quran with us, come read. And it was all women's class. Okay? So we're sitting here, read 3 verses, 1 verse. You can't do the 1 verse. Let me help you with the letters. And we go person by person, and I give you a chance to read. Okay? So I was giving that class, and I was giving a class on the basics of Islam. What is Islam? So we had Muslims and non-Muslims alike in the classes. But what I found out is that, I'll give you the example of 2 people. One of them, she was an Indonesian. Okay? The other was a Malaysian. When they started my classes, the Indonesian was in the Quran class. She had not picked up a Quran in maybe 20 years. When she was a little girl in Indonesia, in a village, her parents would send her to the sheikh. And the sheikh would have them recite and read. And subhanAllah, if they made a mistake, what did he do? He beat them. He beat them. Sometimes she said she came home with blood. She started to hate Islam, to hate the Quran. Why? Because Islam was where? That man. That's the religious guy. That's the man of knowledge. That's our sheikh. And this is Islam. I don't want it. Then she heard there's an American teaching Quran. This I got to check out. She came in with a little hijab on, but she doesn't normally wear hijab. And she sat down, and I had her read, and mashallah, her reading was fabulous. Beautiful. And by the end of the course, she was helping me to help everybody else. And subhanAllah, she tells me her story. And she says, you know, because of the way that you're teaching, and I wasn't trying to make anybody change, and of course my intention, I want Dawah, I want people to come back to Allah, to become Muslims. But I wasn't trying specifically for this woman to change, because I honestly didn't know that outside of class she doesn't wear hijab. I didn't know that she hated Islam. But I was teaching her what I understood and what I knew, and trying to live a life as a Muslim. She came back to Allah. She became a practicing Muslim. She put on hijab. And then she went back to Indonesia. The Malaysian girl would be coming to my class, and she had been a really strong practicing Muslim in Malaysia. Then she started to get, weak. You come to the United States, you're a student, all this environment around you, the other students aren't that religious. So when she came to my class, I never give, and this is another good thing, when you're teaching, you don't have to say, you need to put on hijab. What you're doing is wrong. You need to start praying. This is not Dawah. This is not Dawah. What you need to do, in my What is Islam class, I would teach La ilaha illallah. And then I would use examples from Quran, from Sunnah, from human examples. I would give examples using things that I know people have a problem with. I use hijab as my example, but I don't tell anybody put on hijab. I use salah as my example, but I don't tell people make salah. And whenever we're explaining anything, I always bring them back to what? La ilaha illallah. Always bring them back to what? La ilaha illallah. No matter where they try to take you off on a tangent, you bring them back to La ilaha illallah. Because this is the basis of Islam. Once they understand La ilaha illallah, the Malaysian girl, she said, I grew up and I had all these Sufi beliefs, and we used to go to the graves, and we used to take dirt from the graves, and we would eat from the dirt. And I thought this was from Islam. But you were teaching us in class that this isn't from Islam. But you didn't just say it. You were showing us the Quran. You were showing us Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and you were showing us how this was authentic and who authenticated it. So she was learning how to know Islam. And she was learning what is La ilaha illallah. Without directly saying, you are not following this. And I didn't know. Because I didn't question my students, what do you believe? Where do you come from? What is your background? I'm just teaching you La ilaha illallah. What is Islam? Islam is what? La ilaha illallah. No one knows better than the Arabs of the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when you use this negation, La ilaha illallah, there's a negation in there, right? When you use this specific term, in actuality, what is it doing? It is telling the person, I have given up sovereignty over myself. I no longer have a right to choose. So I am not an ilah. I am not a God. My brain has a limitation and I have to, whatever's in my brain, I need to delete it. Allah said this. If my brain says it's different, it doesn't matter because Allah knows better than I do. So subhanAllah, this is a very strong statement. La ilaha illallah. So we teach them and bring them back to that. When I taught and I brought people back to this, they put on the hijab. They started to pray. They started watching out for halal and haram. Not because I told them they had to, but why? Once they understood and established La ilaha illallah, they want to do it of their own volition. So if we can establish La ilaha illallah, what is it that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the entire time he was in Mecca? What was he establishing? La ilaha illallah. How long did it take for the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to really know Islam? Was it revealed in one day? A month? Yeah. It's not something that you cannot force people to change. You can't force people to be anything. But if you can get them to understand La ilaha illallah, this is good. This is excellent. And we have to use examples that will appeal to each individual person. I said, bring everybody back to La ilaha illallah, right? Yes. Always try to bring them back to that. No matter where they try to take you, you bring them back. Because once you have La ilaha illallah, the rest comes. So when we're making dawah, we need knowledge, wisdom, and kindness. Who is our example for dawah? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And was he not the mercy to mankind? Was he not kindness? Was he not wisdom? When we're going to give dawah, we have to think in terms of our knowledge. Are we making sure that what we say is correct? Are we playing with the deen? You know, I've had people coming to Islam and somebody was talking to them about Islam and they asked the big one, but can my husband take 4 wives? And the answer, well, Allah says in the Quran that they cannot be fair, so no, he really can't do it because no man can really be fair. Is that correct?
No.
It says this in the Quran, but it's not saying that it's talking about you can't be 100% fair, but you can be equitable. You can be not equal, because you'll never be equal. You can be equitable. You have a wife. He has a wife with 4 kids. He has a wife with 1 kid. He puts this one in a 3-bedroom, and he puts this one in a 1-bedroom, but it's the same level. Because she doesn't need the extra rooms, right? So he's going to be equitable. And he has to be that, and if he doesn't, Allah is going to punish him. Can he love everybody the same? No. Well, if you're a mother, you know that there are times when you love this one more than you love that one. There are times you want to throw that one out the window. And there are times you love this one and you don't love that one. And it's not like love, but it's a different level, right? There's a saying the Arabs have, who's your favorite? The one who's away until he comes back. The youngest until he grows, right? They're different levels, different times. One is better to you than the other at that moment. The one who's sick over the one that's healthy. SubhanAllah. So when you tell this to the person, and later on they find out that you stretched the truth, you played with it, you watered it down, that can make them leave Islam, and that's on you. Because you taught them the wrong thing. So if we're going to make dawah, we need to make 100% sure that what we say is correct. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you lie against me, take your place in the hellfire. When we're teaching Islam, we have to be honest. La ilaha illallah. Islam is what Islam is. We cannot play with it. We cannot try to water it down. We cannot make it easier on the person. Because that is not our job. Our job is to give the information. Convey it. First, know the information. Second, convey the information. If I'm giving you dawah and I'm talking to you and I'm trying to get you to be a Muslim and you say, I don't want Islam, I should not be bothered. I'm doing this for Allah. Did Allah not tell the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is for us to guide, it is for you to advise. And that's the Prophet of Allah. We have to convey the information. So we need to know the information. And how do we convey the information? With kindness and with wisdom. The Prophet ﷺ was in the masjid. The Bedou man came and he urinated all over the masjid, didn't he? And they're ready to kill him. The Prophet ﷺ stopped them and said, stop. Let him finish. Right now, any masjid in Qatar, somebody walks in and starts urinating. Thank you. He will never walk out of that masjid because we're not following the kindness and wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ. Let him finish. Then bring him over. Let me explain tahara to him. I got asked a question today. Apparently, some people have a group, and in the group they're asking the question. You see a woman wearing shorts or some outfit that she shouldn't be wearing at the mall. Do you go to her and say, this is not acceptable? Does that woman have la ilaha illallah? No. So what's going to stop her? There's a law, right? You're in the mall. You do not need to go to this person. The wisdom is not, I go up to a total stranger and tell her, this should not be worn here. The wisdom would be, find an official from the place and say there's a woman next to such and such store or in such and such store, and she's dressed incorrectly. It's his job to take care of it, is it not? Yes. So that's wisdom. Because if I... Pardon me? You shouldn't be dressed like this. What's the image?
Scary.
Scary. Why? Because I don't understand what this is. I don't understand what this is. This is not my religion.
I don't see her.
You don't, well, even if you see my face still, what are you, this is not my religion, this is not my culture, and I may have just come off the plane, I have a 12-hour layover, and I just came on the clothes that I had. I don't know the laws, I don't know the custom, I don't know the religion, I know nothing. That's one. Two, I could be one of those people that is like kayfi. This is my way, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't care what they say. So what are you inviting? You're inviting a fight, right? Leave the fight to the one who knows how to fight. Now, that same woman comes into the masjid and you're giving dawah. She comes into the Islamic center and you're giving dawah. You're at a gathering and she came with some family member. And now you can sit next to her. Hey, sweetie, where are you from? Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. You're English. Oh, I've been to England. Now you can start. There's wisdom in dawah. The Prophet ﷺ saw a man urinating in the masjid, and you're the Prophet of Allah. Leave him. Let him finish. Wisdom. Because had they gone and beat him up, would he have known Islam? Would he have known tahara? He would have known these people are evil. These people are violent. No, we need to be wise when it comes to dawah. We need to have the knowledge. We have to try to be like the Prophet ﷺ, and we have to be very wise. Some more examples for you. My friend in Kuwait, she's American, her husband's Kuwaiti. She's trying to raise her daughter to be a good girl, to be a good Muslim. And she taught her haram to remove these eyebrows, right? So the girl, she's a young Kuwaitiya. Her cousins, her friends, everybody's what? Getting ready to get married. And they're going to her. Ya Habibti, you look like a squirrel. Those bushy eyebrows, no man is going to marry you. And they're whispering in her ear, right? She knows it's haram. She wants to be a good girl, but she knows it's haram, but again and again and again, and you hear it and you hear it and you hear it and you fall. Right? So now I'm going to show you two examples of dawah. The first one, The girl goes and she removes the eyebrows, goes to the salon with her friends and does it. On the way home, she's sorry. She knows that she's done something wrong. She starts to cry. She's walking in the door. Her mother sees her. All right? And she sees her crying. And she sees the eyebrows. And she's like, what's wrong, sweetheart? And she's like, I did my eyebrows and I didn't want to and I'm so sorry. She's like, relax, relax. Do you trust in Allah? Yes. Do you believe in Allah? Yes. Have you repented to Allah? Yes. Okay, go upstairs, make wudu, do salat al-tawbah. Finished. Leave it with Allah. And never do it again. MashaAllah. That's wisdom. Fast forward to Thursday. Family day. She comes to this is a majlis, right? We call it diwaniyah. Yes. Comes to the diwaniyah. She's in the diwaniyah. All of her aunties, her aunt, her cousins, her grandmother, everybody's there. And we have auntie who used to be free Kuwait and became Shariffa. Covered from head to toe. Gloves, abaya ras, bushia. Okay? So she's sitting there. As the girl comes in, Allah, look, we have a cursed one with us. The whole night. The cursed one, you, go bring me some tea. You, cursed one, go do this. All night long. Is this dawah? Is this wisdom? Had the girl not repented, would that make her repent? No. We have to be wise. If I see that you do not have an understanding of la ilaha illallah, I'm not going to talk to you about your hijab. You're not wearing hijab, you don't know Allah. Who cares about the hijab? I got to get you to know Allah, to understand it. You're wearing a little bag, and inside that bag there's like pieces of Quran and I don't know what, and ashes and who knows, and the sheikh said don't open it. Dawah. And this is supposed to protect you. And you're not wearing hijab. Which do I work with? Where's the wisdom? The wisdom is go to the original, the la ilaha illallah. Okay, you have la ilaha illallah. You have Muhammadur Rasulullah. You're making salah. And now you're not wearing hijab. You see, she's kind, she's generous, she's a good woman in every other way, but she's not wearing the hijab. So now you can think about hijab. I'm sorry. I like to do this to people. You're my favorite cousin, you know that, right? Wallah, I see, and not in front of everybody, I see that you're always praying. You're always doing the things that you need to do. So, what's keeping you from hijab? Are you likely to talk to me? Yes. See? Kindness, wisdom, using the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, we need to think about what is the worst problem this person has right now. She doesn't know Allah. What about hijab? She's not going to know hijab. She doesn't know Allah. So we have to be very wise. We have to be very kind. This is not mine. They all look alike. Okay. We have to be kind. We have to be wise. And, yes.
What about if I met someone in the street?
Okay.
I'm not close, short, all these things. How can I do that for them?
Okay.
And there is Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy 'anil Munkar, right?
There is. However, you have to make a decision. Okay. Is there a way that I can speak to this person without making them hate Islam in the way that I talk to them? Because they don't know Allah yet. So you have to be wise when you're asking somebody to go away from munkar. You have to be wise in it. Again, does she know Allah?
But there's difference between Muslim and non-Muslim, the way, right?
The way with the Muslim and the non-Muslim is different, but even with the Muslim, she may not know Islam. How many Muslim women, I have Muslim women born and raised in a Muslim country, Arabic is their language, and they're telling me hijab is not in the Quran. They don't know the deen. They don't know their own deen. They're going based on someone said something to me and I think that's true. So you have to be wise. You may not be able to stop every human being. Okay? if you can do it in a way that you're not going to make her think and hate Islam, then go for it. Okay? And I'll give you an example. I didn't even have to do anything. I was at the Kuwait Towers. This is a few years back. And you see how I dress, right? I'm not the world's greatest, but I'm wearing something that falls within what is Islam. And I had a friend with me who also dresses exactly the same. And we're talking and we're getting ready to go on the elevator. There's a woman next to us, Kuwaitiya, there's two of them. One covered with niqab and hijab and the whole 9 yards. The other one, free Kuwait. So we get into the elevator and the covered one looks at me and says, "Where are you from?" "I'm an American." "Really? Why are you dressed like this?" And she's like, "Because I'm a Muslim." And she does like this. شوف هذا الأمريكان وأنتي. This is the American, what about you? Okay, so she had a way to do it. It was her sister. If you can find a way that you can do it without making them hate Islam, do it. But if you're going to walk up to a complete stranger and you're going to embarrass them in public saying what you're wearing is awful, you're against our culture, their heart is already going to close. Correct? You're attacking me, you're humiliating. The Prophet ﷺ never attacked, never humiliated. So this is something we have to be careful with. Yes?
Can we tell them about the wisdom of hijab then, for example? Or if she's not a Muslim, we could tell her about the wisdom of hijab or wisdom of covering, and then we ask her it's better if she covers in a nice way.
But if you have a chance to stand and talk to her, somebody's walking past you wearing a skirt, right? You don't really have a good way of telling this person in this time.
That's true.
You have to be wise.
But how do...
Okay, but if you have a chance, sometimes you can create a chance. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example. All right, you know what? Let me forget this. Let me give you an example. Last year I was in Chicago, okay? And I got picked up by the airport, and subhanAllah, I planned, the group that was picking me up to do the lecture planned, and Allah planned. The lady who was supposed to pick me up, her car broke down. She arrived at the airport to pick me up in an Uber. We get into the Uber, we sit down, and the guy, because we're in America, they try to talk with you and give you a good time so that you can give them a 5-star. So he starts talking, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you coming from?" And he has the strongest Spanish accent I've heard. And I'm like, I think this guy's Spanish. So I asked, "Where are you from?" And I don't remember if he was from Honduras. He was from South America. And I was like, "Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo va?" And I start speaking to him in Spanish. Allah gave me 7 languages. Okay? I was outside a few days ago and I ran into an Italian. I ran into a German, and I ran into somebody from North Carolina, a few hours from my house. SubhanAllah. Use what you got. If you have a way to get in, use it. I talked to him from there until we arrived at my hotel. By the time he was taking my bags out of the car, I'm giving him the flyer for the lecture. He showed up at the lecture. The next day, I'm going to the lecture. I get picked up. Another Latino. I talked to him all the way. He also attended the lecture. He happened to be someone that had a friend that was an Arab Muslim and had been telling him about Islam. While I'm at the lecture, word gets around this woman speaks Spanish, and there was another Spanish man in the lecture. At the end of the lecture, the organizer came to me and said, "There's a man who wants to talk to you." It was a 3rd Spanish man. He took his shahada with me that night. You don't know when Allah is going to open the opportunity. If that person is meant to be a Muslim, Allah is going to open a door for you to be able to tell them, talk to them, and do something about it. Not everybody is meant to be a Muslim. Not everybody is meant to be guided. And as somebody whose family is not Muslim, that's a hard reality that we have to learn. Alhamdulillah, before she died, my mother secretly took shahada. Allah yarhamah. My father can't even open the subject with him.
Until now?
Until now. But he's changed. He went from you're going to burn in hell to all roads lead to Rome. It's a little bit better. Alhamdulillah. But this is when you want to talk to somebody about Islam, and if Allah wants that person to know, Allah's going to open the door for them to come to you, believe it or not, or for you to be able to talk to them. And you don't know what word. You said a seed was planted. Part of my program, I always say you have to plant seeds. And I'll give you an example. As a da'iyah, anybody comes to you and asks you a question, you find a way to answer the question. Okay? You find a way, and one of the things that I do is like I said, I read a lot, right? So I have, if you go to my YouTube or my TikTok, you'll find I have this thing called the mating ritual of the human being. You know how the peacock raises its feather and, please woman, come here? That's his mating ritual, right? We have a mating ritual, believe it or not. Researchers, again, non-Muslims, because I read everything. Sociologists, and I'm going to give you sociology and physiology, okay? Sociologists went around the world to every culture, even Alaska, the Amazon, they went to every culture to see, is there such a thing as a human mating ritual? And there is. Everywhere in the world, it begins with the look and the look away. The look and the look away, and then the look that you keep looking. What does the Prophet ﷺ tell us? What does Allah say? Lower your eyes. Allah created us. He knows what He created. Okay? The second stage. Get a little closer. Hi, how you doing? Where are you from? Start talking. Small talk, simple talk, get to know each other. That's stage 2. What did the Prophet ﷺ say about talking? Man and a woman are alone? Okay, so we got stage 2. Also, the Prophet ﷺ was talking to his wife at night, and the people passed by, and he said, "This is my wife." And they said, "We had no doubt, Rasulullah ﷺ." And the Prophet ﷺ said, what? In case of the shaitan. If it was halal to be with a non-mahram woman in the middle of the night talking, would he have said anything? No. So we know alone or even not alone, talking unnecessarily is not Islam. Stage 2, Allah cut it. Right? Stage 3. Oh, really? A simple touch. We're not talking about major touching. We're talking about a simple touch initiated by the woman in every society. Subhanallah.
Shake my hand.
What did the Prophet ﷺ say? You want to shake hands? Come on, here's some coals, right? So Allah is cutting it every single way. Did Allah already know this? Of course. You don't go from A to Z. You don't go from, you see someone and you're committing zina, a'udhu billah. It's steps, stages. And Allah said, cut, 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 cut. You got to get through this one. Okay, I got this far. Let me go further until you end up with the haram. It's stages. Allah in the Quran does not say, do not commit adultery. What does Allah say? Don't get close. Don't draw near to it because it's stages. Right? So you explain this to someone. You're explaining to someone in Dawah science, sociology, right? So let's go to physiology. Physiological means the physical body and how it reacts. When it comes to the moment of zina, the moment of being ready for zina or for halal, the man requires one thing and one thing only. The eyes. With the eyes alone, he's ready. The woman, we need to hear, right? يا حبيبتي أحلى واحد في الدنيا أحبك أحسن من كله وأنا ما أحب الباقي أنا أحبك I love you. You're so beautiful. You're better than every woman I've ever known. You're special. We need this. It's not a matter of culture. Every woman needs it. We have to hear. So if you covered up a man, he could still talk his way. But a woman also needs touch. She requires touch. The man, the eyes. Just the eyes. And if you want to explain it and prove it to somebody who's not a Muslim, ask them the question. All of these pornography sites with naked women, the majority of people who look at it are what? Males. What about the naked men? Gay men.
Yes.
This is the reality. The eyes is for the man. So the woman, you cover her. When you cover her, there's a wisdom in this because now he has no choice but to find something other than your look. He has to know your mind. He has to know your heart. He has to know your personality. Because you're not giving him the eyes. SubhanAllah, Allah is the most wise. He's going to put us together. Maybe we have to work together. Cover you up. He has nothing to judge you by except what? Your intellect, your personality, your knowledge, your ability to do the job. SubhanAllah. In a perfect society, this is not necessary. So this is my way of dawah. You see how I'm doing this? I'm teaching you using psychology, sociology, physiology, showing you that there's a wisdom. And why would we want to do this? Because human beings need proof. We're human. When you look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, when Allah told him they're worshipping the idol, did he believe Allah? Of course. You're talking directly to Allah. Of course he believed him. When did he drop the tablets? When he saw it. Allah tells us reflect. Allah tells us read. Allah tells us to understand, correct? So when we're giving dawah, we need to give people a little bit of everything. You need wisdom and the opportunity. If that person, Allah wants them to be guided, they're going to come to you. They're going to come to you. I have had, I don't even know how many, thousands of people come to Islam with me. Alhamdulillah. Most of these people are not people that I knew and I was with them all the time. Most of these people, somebody else planted the seeds. And Allah brought them to me to put them over the hump. SubhanAllah. Allah gave me a talent, an ability to talk to someone and figure out what's stopping them from becoming a Muslim and being able to get them over the hump. Most of the people, there are people like my cousin, mashallah, tabarakallah, he became a Muslim. Through me, but not through me. I'll tell you, I was at a family gathering. Now, in America, probably also in England, your cousin is like your brother, like your sister. We don't marry our cousins, okay? So my cousin, family gathering, sorry, hon, he comes next to me. Why you got that thing on your head? He knows me. What's he trying to do? He's trying to get me agitated, trying to fight with me because he's bothered by what I'm wearing. I told him exactly what I just told you here. He's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. I give it to you. He got up. He didn't bother me the rest of the night. A few months later, I'm back in Kuwait. And in Kuwait, I get a messenger from my cousin. Tell me more about this religion thing of yours. Nice way of asking, right? I'm like, no problem. Give me your mailing address. In the United States, there's these Dar Quran. Dar. It's a bookstore. Dar es Salaam. Thank you. Yes. They have this bookstore in the United States. I went online. I ordered like 20 books. Shipped them to his house. I don't hear from him for months. Then I get another messenger. I want to know more about Islam, but don't notice he changed his tone. This religion thing of yours to I want to know more about Islam, but don't waste your money on books. Send me links. I have in my phone, under notes, every time I find something that's good for dawah, I make a link. So I just copied and pasted 30 links to my cousin. Don't hear from him again until November. November, I get a phone call in the middle of the night in Kuwait. I pick up the phone, and I hear, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I screamed so hard, my sons came running. And then they started screaming when I told them the news, subhanAllah. But he couldn't go to the masjid because the masjid was only open for 1 hour on Friday and he worked Fridays. So he said, the first Friday, I'm going to go do my shahada. I get a phone call in January. No, I'm sorry. End of December, because he, on December 25th, which is what, Christmas? Yeah. That was his first day off on a Friday. He went to the masjid and he took his shahada. But I had a friend that was from the same area where he lived. And she calls me up in Kuwait, Allah yarhamha, because she passed away just recently. She called me up and like, do you know anybody from the Torres family? My cousin is my father's mother's son. Sister's son. Sorry, my father's sister's son. So she has a different last name. He has a different last name because his father's not from our family. So I was like, Torres, actually I do. She's like, do you know anybody in Kuwait that has family Torres? And I'm like, why? And then she explained, this man showed up at the mosque in the town and he said he had a cousin in Kuwait who taught him about Islam. And then I was like, oh my God, that had to be my cousin. I called him up and it was him. He didn't even bother to call me to tell me, oh, by the way, I went and took my shahada. SubhanAllah. So, seeds. I left the seed. Another time, I was at the university. And I was still a student. And I'm sitting, and you know how you have your desk front, you people in front of you? This girl kept going like this. All the time, pull on my hijab during the whole class. Now, how do you react to that? You get annoyed, right? The whole class, I'm just sitting there saying, be patient, be patient. There's a good reason. Just be patient. Don't kill her. Be patient. Class ended. I turned around and I'm like, can I help you? She's like, why are you wearing this? I think, do you really want to know? She said, yeah. She came to me. I said, downstairs in the building downstairs, there was a coffee shop. I said, downstairs there's a coffee shop. Let's sit, have some coffee. It turned out during that class to the next one, I had like an hour. And so did she. Every day for the whole semester, we would go downstairs and talk. I get a phone call, the end of the semester, in the middle of the night, and she's crying. I'm like, what's wrong? And she said, my boyfriend came down from North Carolina and we did something. I'm like, is this the first time? She's like, no. And I'm like, then what's wrong? She said, I know it's wrong. I know it's a sin. And I said, do you want to be a Muslim? She's like, yes. And she took her shahada. You don't know what's going to cause somebody. And I'm going to give you one last story. And then if you guys want a better class, tell them and they'll prepare one for you. This is just an introduction to Dawah, okay? The last story. I was working, when I was doing my master's degree, originally I was doing a Master's of Arts in teaching instead of in composition and rhetoric with, writing and public speaking and these types of things. And because it was the fastest way to get a master's. I had to do a student teaching. They put me in a school that was one of those like really bad high crime schools. So I went to this school and I realized I don't want to be a teacher in the schools in America. So what did I do? During the time I started my student teaching, there was a young girl. Every time I had a break, she would come and she'd ask me all these questions because she wanted to make me a Christian. She's going to show me the wrong way of Islam and the right way of being a Christian. And she would talk to me and I would give her something and she'd answer the question and she'd ask me a question and I'd answer the question. And I'm just talking in a very kind, nice way. No arguing, no fighting. Because if somebody starts to argue and fight with you, stop. Stop. Say, you know what? It seems like we're not going to be able to convince each other of anything. I hope I didn't insult you. Thank you. Have a good day. Never argue, because that's not a way to give dawah. The minute they start to become defensive, you've lost them. Okay? So we're talking, and she comes every single break. I was there for about 2 weeks only. I realized there ain't no way I'm going to do this. I went back to the university. I quit student teaching. I changed my major. It took longer, but I didn't have to work in those schools. So alhamdulillah, fast forward a few years, I'm teaching at Benedict College. One of the teachers from that school came to do a part-time teaching position at our college. She sees me, she's like, "Oh, Shariffa, how are you doing? And how, and I haven't seen you since you were at the school." And we start talking. She's like, "And how's so-and-so?" "Who's so-and-so?" "The girl that became Muslim because of you." That girl had taken her shahada and become a Muslim, and I had no clue. You don't know what seed you plant. Allah is later going to give it to somebody else, but you still have the barakah because you left that seed. Your friend who showed you the surah, she has your shahada in her pocket. If you give someone the seed and that seed grows and they become a Muslim, if I'm the one who pushes them over the hump, I get a barakah. Because Allah is generous that way. SubhanAllah, He's Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Don't expect that at the moment that you're talking to the person that they have to take shahada. If Allah wants them to change, believe me, believe her, you're going to change. Nothing is going to stop you from changing because He's going to keep hitting you until you're like, okay, I can't cover the sun with my hands. I know this is the truth. Alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah. SubhanAllah. Your job, my job, is to talk to people and give them the truth. Teach them la ilaha illallah. Teach them what is Islam and who is Allah. And leave them. When they're ready, when Allah has put them where they need to be, they're going to take the shahada if they're meant to be Muslim. And it's their choice. I could have said I don't want it, even though I know it's true. Each and every one of us, even you were born a Muslim, raised a Muslim family for generations, you can easily at any second say, I don't want this, right? It's our choice. We have to say la ilaha illallah, whether we're born into a Muslim family or a non-Muslim family, we still have to accept it. And you need to have that faith that Allah is going to guide whom Allah is going to guide. And be patient. And if they walk away, it's okay. I did my job. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah is going to say, Shariffa, did you tell them? Yes, I told them. The end. Did you have a chance to tell them? I didn't. This wasn't the opportunity. This wasn't the right time. This wasn't the right way. It wasn't the wise time to do it. Because that also exists. Were there not times that the Prophet ﷺ told the people, shh, right? Don't talk. Don't say anything. Keep it secret. When he was it Dar Arqam? Yes. What were they supposed to do? Shh, don't let anybody see me, right? There are times you have to do that. Times you have to be quiet because it's not the wise time to open. But if you're walking and a woman looks at you and she says something, then you can say, it's okay. This is my religion. Then maybe you can open a conversation. Maybe that woman, you saw her in the mall and Allah's going to bring her back to you at a different time, in a place where you can actually talk to her. She might come to your masjid, to your Islamic center, to your whatever. Allah will bring her to you. So yes, we have to enjoin good. Yes, we have to forbid evil, but we have to be wise in doing so. Okay? Subhanahu wa bihamdika, wa la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.